Hello, I wanted to show you some of the tools that could be used for beginners. I put together a little stations of what could be used for beginners, and I'll go through each one. When I learned calligraphy in 1985, I don't believe they had calligraphy markers. I learned with a fountain pen. And of course I learned with a Schaefer fountain pen. Most middle schoolers in the 80s and 90s learned with Schaefer. And I still have one of the sets I've had for a while. I don't use it anymore. It's missing some of the cartridges, and I think one of the nibs is missing too. But one of these sets can be anywhere from $8 to $13, $14 at Michael's. It is a good set to begin with. It's not my favorite fountain pen. My favorite fountain pen is the Pilot Parallel pen. It has a better performance. You can get these on Amazon. They do not have these around here, not even in Virginia Beach. So you have to buy these online, but this is my favorite one. It comes with, I have all sizes, there's 4 sizes, but it comes with cartridges and a nib cleaner. One pen like this, if you buy just one, you can get it probably around, I think, $9. But if you buy the set, I want to say it's $32, $35. It depends, I would advise to buy one if you buy one of these, just to, see how you like it. The size I would get would be 2.4. Is that 2.4? Yeah, 2.4. You could buy, if you like it bigger, 3.8. But it comes in 4 sizes. So fountain pen is one way that a beginner can learn. Another way is calligraphy markers. I didn't use markers till probably 15 years after I learned with the fountain pen, and nowadays there's all kinds. My favorite marker, one of my favorite markers, is Zig. You can find this at Michael's. They are $19.99, but of course with your coupon, $10. The ink is from Japan, so I like Zig markers. And they have to say calligraphy markers because Zig does make many different ones. If you want to go cheap, Walmart actually has calligraphy markers. These are about, I think, $2 or $3. So if you're on a budget, you can, buy one marker and try them. The Elegant Writer, I have a couple people in the guild who really like them, and then some people that don't like them. So it just depends. 2.5 is a good size. I want to warn you though, that if you do buy the Elegant Writers or any markers from a store, and then you take it home and the markers are dry, you need to take it right away, take it back, because calligraphers are a rare breed. And sometimes stores just buy a whole bunch and then they don't sell, and after a year or 2 or 3 they dry out. So I don't really like the Elegant Writers, but they're a good price, and I have some from my classes. Another way for a beginner is dip pens. I did dip pens after I did the fountain pen. The dip pen is probably not the best way for a beginner, but I had people in my class start with a fountain pen and a marker, and then I let them try the dip pens, and they said, oh, we're going to put all these other things away. So it depends on what you like, what you are comfortable with. I love dip pens. That's mostly what I use, are the dip pens. And of course, it comes with, well, this isn't ink, but it comes with a little bottle. You have to buy your own ink, but these are dip pens. Another way is the brush pen. And I have different ones here. Kurtaki is my favorite, or one of my favorite. I have a lot of favorites. But I wouldn't buy Kurtaki off the bat if you're a beginner, because number one, they are a little bit expensive. And I use these for I wouldn't use these for practice because they're expensive. There's Marvy markers. I like these. They're from, these are actually from Japan. They write smaller. I wrote a little bit here, on the paper. I'm not a brush calligrapher, so the brush calligraphy realm is not a realm that I have actually traveled in, I guess you can say. It's not my go-to. And there are, two schools of thought, the old school and the new school. And I'm part of the old school. I like the dip pens. I like the, I even like the feather. I'm old school. So, but there's different kinds of brush pens. If you want to learn brush pen, I like Tombow. Now, these are very expensive in my case. They're usually $26, $29, but you can get them 50% off at Michael's and with your coupon, make them $13, $14. Then it's more manageable. These have two tips, so it has the brush end and then the bullet end, or nibs. I'm sorry, bullet nib and brush nib. These are very good. They are actually made in Vietnam. I did not know that. I thought they were American made, and then I thought they were from China, but apparently these are from Vietnam. These would be good for practicing. Now, if you can't afford that, then you can just buy one. You can, as long as it says brush pen or brush marker on the package, if you're just wanting to try it out and see if that's the kind of calligraphy that you want to do, then, try that out. I just wanted to show you other brush pens. I have the watercolor ones. So you just use your watercolor paint and practice with that. That's a cheap way. The Wink Estella, that's one of my other favorites. These pens are a little bit expensive. They're about $8 or $9 for one. So you can imagine a set. I saw a set for $132. I said, no way. These, I forgot what brand these are, but these are at Michael's. They're brush pens too. These pens, I bought this one a couple weeks ago. I like this because you can actually refill it. You just have to buy the refill ink for it. And I think that's a good idea. So if you're wanting brush calligraphy, these are some ideas. So part of a beginner's kit, if you will, you need your tools, and it could be any of the tools that you see here. And you need to determine what kind of ink you're going to use. Of course, if you're using a marker, and you don't have to worry about that, you're using marker ink. And then the third one is paper. If you're using markers like these, or even the Tombows, you can use whatever paper you have around. So you don't have to go out and buy expensive paper. You know, it just depends on what you're using. Another thing that you need to have is some kind of book. You can use a book, or you can go on the internet and just print off practice sheets. You don't have to buy, a $25 book, and you might not even read it or even like it. This is a book that I've had for a long time, a speedball book, and they've never changed. So if you find a speedball book, it's exactly the same. So this particular book, I bought at AC Moore. I think it's normally $22. Of course, I don't pay that much, half price. But this is a good book. A lot of calligraphers start out with this book. There's other ones out there, and if you don't want to buy a book, go to the library. I did go to the library in Yorktown, and they have about, I want to say, 8 to 10 calligraphy books. So if you don't want to buy a book, go to the library. If you print off a worksheet, just find the right one. This is, of course, Old English. I actually learned Old English before I learned the other letter forms. So it looks hard, but this is what I learned first. And my teacher said, if you learn this, all the other ones are easy. So I said, oh, okay. But, so to sum it all up, you have to decide what kind you would like to learn. Either Old English, copperplate, and that will determine what tools you use. If you decide copperplate, you can buy, the Leonard manuscript. I took out some of the nibs because the other nibs are my favorite. And then if you do Old English, or those, the letter forms that use a flat tip, you can buy speedball. Or you can buy your fountain pens or your markers. So you have to decide that. Then your paper. It depends on what kind of ink I'm using, but I have all kinds of paper. I also use a journal, and I've suggest this to all of my students and everyone. Just buy a journal, but it needs to, be not a journal that you write in, well, per se, but a journal that is for watercolor or acrylic, a mixed media journal is the best. And then once you practice your letters, you write the date. And then every time you practice, I missed a page. Every time you practice your letters, then you write the date. And then later on, like a year later, you can go through it and you can see your progress. So for a beginner, you can spend anywhere from $5 to $25, probably more. It just depends on what kind you want to learn and your materials. And if you buy materials for one letter form and you find that you're just not getting it, try something else. Maybe I tried brush lettering. It's not for me. I mean, as you can see, it's just not for me. I like the old-fashioned stuff. But again, if you have any questions, just let me know.